It was in London, England, 1854, when a severe diarrhea illness caused the deaths of 500 adults and children over 10 days. Physician-scientist John Snow, mapping out the locations of those sick, realized that the cause of illness might be from the well water coming from a hand pump on Broad Street, and he convinced authorities to shut down the source. After removing the pump handle from the Broad Street pump, deaths abruptly slowed down. And this helped bring the city and then the developed world to realize the danger of contaminated water. Over the next years, scientists identified cholera, or Vibrio cholerae bacteria, as the cause of that illness in London and elsewhere. The original pump is still there on what is now Broadwick Street in London, commemorating what is thought to be the founding event in the history of epidemiology, the science of understanding epidemics, infections, and patterns of illnesses in populations. The word cholera comes from the Greek word chole, or chole, which means literally bile, from an ancient and, of course, wrong idea that all illness is from an imbalance of bile and phlegm or blood. It's interesting to note that years ago, many ill-directed physicians thus treated various illnesses by bleeding their patients or inducing diarrhea. Of course, there are many causes for infectious diarrhea, including viral, bacterial, and parasitic causes. We came to realize after the mid-1800s with the newly discovered microscope how to categorize bacteria, and that cholera was likely responsible for many of the pandemics throughout history. Sadly, despite all our present accumulated knowledge, cholera persists today in developing countries, mostly the result of polluted water. Cholera is an acute diarrhea illness that can kill within hours if left untreated by causing nausea and vomiting, along with 3 to 5 gallons of rice water diarrhea per day, resulting in severe dehydration of an individual. Unfortunately, highly infectious fecal material can too easily get into the water supply or food, spreading the infection, especially to the very young, old, and immunocompromised. More challenging is that 75% of people infected with cholera may not have symptoms, but carry the bacteria for 2 weeks after exposure, increasing the spread. Sanitation methods could prevent it. Rehydration therapy and antibiotics could treat it. But too often, these interventions are not available in developing countries. The World Health Organization, an arm of the United Nations, estimates that 3 to 5 million cases and more than 130,000 deaths each year are still due to cholera. This time, the problem cannot be resolved by simply removing a pump handle.